Good morning, my family and friends. It is Saturday morning, July 2nd, and I'm gonna go take a little walk in the garden. So my gimbal stopped working. I guess I need to remember to plug it in so this won't be as stable. So we're just walking out to the garden, and things are coming along. So I've been harvesting Kajari melons off of the trellis, but mainly I just like having things growing on that trellis. Oh, if you look out there, it's Cousin Bill's big barbecue thing. He's gonna come by and pick it up and head down to the valley with it. He and Pete went up to Dallas, I think day before yesterday. So I've still have a lot of flowers. I will have flowers until September. I need to go in and cut them back because they just get really, really big. The cucumbers, I don't know, we're talking about ripping them out just because they look awful. They're still producing some cucumbers, but not a lot. This is that squash plant that I cut back, and it's doing better, but it has, well, actually, I don't know if you can see them in there. It's probably really hard to see, but it's got a lot of squash bugs. I hate spraying anytime during the daytime. I try never to spray in the daytime unless I'm just spraying soapy water. So I'll probably spray some soapy water on it today, this morning when I'm done with this. But there comes a point where the squash bug pressure just gets so intense that I kind of give up and move on to a new plant. And I'm pretty much there, but we shall see. And this is that bed that we had potatoes in, and I planted kind of a little sparse cover crop, and now I've added sweet potato slips in here, so we'll get a second round of sweet potatoes, and these can kind of coexist nicely. So as I said last week, we harvested our grapes. We got 17.5 pounds of grapes. We made grape jelly and we made grape syrup, and Pete is now making raisins out of a couple pounds of it. So here are these tomatoes. So if you just let tomatoes go wild, this is what they do. They tend to just sprawl all over the ground. These are, I think, Romas. They're really tiny Romas. Oh, I have one down there that's ripe, which I will probably just pick and eat. But I am going to pull these out because they're just a big yucky mess. And I think I'm going to put some more cucumbers in here. Loving my trellis. This is a loofahs, and I mean, it's so many loofahs I don't even need them, but it is just such a beautiful plant. The flowers are big and they're gorgeous, and it's prolific, and even if I just throw all the loofahs in the compost, it's still worth growing because the plant is just so pretty. And then, of course, more zinnias, always more zinnias. So I always find that this is just a lovely little walk. This is part of the reason I have to whack these tomatoes back, because it's interfering with this lovely little walk that I like. So beans on this side, and you know, I'm starting to see blossoms. So we'll see if we get some beans. Once it's like this and it's kind of shaded, that usually helps. So we will find out. I'm still getting spaghetti squash on this, which I'm super excited about. I've got, let's see, we've got a couple down there, 3 down there, and 1 over here. And this is also getting a lot of pressure from squash bugs, but you know, I have some more spaghetti squash planted also. And then here's my bean teepee, which just for some reason the whole teepee thing really works with beans. I don't know why, but it does. And then this is another one of those summer squashes, and it's also starting to show its age, and that's just what happens this time of year. Carrots, I need to pull the rest of the carrots. I've been harvesting carrots. I'm going to pull a bunch more carrots, and I think we're going to can or freeze some carrots, and because we'll have multiple rounds of carrots for the summer. And generally, if we do it right, we will have carrots all through the winter time. And then beets. And my sweet potatoes, which will come out, we'll dig these up in about 3 weeks. So that's actually kind of exciting. I fed my bell peppers, and I think I'm already seeing a bit of a difference with them. So I'm hoping that it's going to help the fruit get bigger. I'm also cutting some of this fruit off because it's just really loaded. So there's our cheeky girls and Rocky. And I don't see the mama or the baby chick. Baby chick's pretty big, and now I'm starting to be nervous that it might be a rooster. I don't know. It seems like I see little nubs for spurs on its legs, but it's really hard to tell. It's 10 weeks old, and it's pretty difficult to tell when they're 10 weeks old. But so we're gonna keep taking care of it for a while longer, and if it turns out to be a rooster, we're gonna stop worrying about putting it in every night and let it fend for itself and see what happens. It's not having any arguments with Rocky, and I have read that you can have multiple roosters depending on the number of hens you have, and sometimes you'll have the extra roosters. They will not even go in the coop at night. They just kind of live off wherever they want. So we'll see. You know, if it turns out to be a rooster and there's a problem, we'll probably just eat it, because we prefer Rocky, and he's a purebred, and he was hand raised, so he's not as wild, even though roosters are they're different. So always one of my favorite places to be, my high tunnel. Continuing to harvest a lot of tomatoes, and that's mainly what we have in here. I'm getting ready to start another round of my lovely rooster, another round of vegetables that are frost tender for a fall planting. So these are, you know, like additional cucumbers, additional squash, things like that. Probably additional tomatoes. So I'll do another round of tomatoes. So one of the things that I have learned about doing tomatoes in the high tunnel, especially these big determinants, on these big determinants, they get so bushy. So what I did was I planted 6 plants in this 4 by almost 8 foot bed, and it's plenty of space for nutrition and for the root system, but the problem is they're very difficult to maintain because they're it's 2 rows. So I think what I've learned is that I need these determinants to be a single row so that I can access them from both sides to maintain them. So what I'm going to do this fall, so when these will come out, because determinants, they only go for a certain amount of time, they're kind of pre-programmed death. What I'll do is I'll plant them a little bit closer together, but I will plant only 1 row wide. So I'll just plant them down the middle, and that way I can get to both sides. So that's kind of my plan. Lesson learned, right? And I learn every year, and I learn every season, and I learn with each type of vegetable. I learn a little bit more every year. So I'm getting better, but I'm still learning, and I will probably be learning the rest of my life. So the black brandywines are setting a fair amount of fruit. So I'm going to have a decent harvest of black brandywines. I've still got, I've got a lot of tomato hornworms, but I'm plucking them off, and it's just kind of what you do. So that looks like that one is probably going to be my first to get ripe, but they're kind of all in here. I have quite a few of them. And these are the Roadsters in the center bed, and like I said, it's 6 plants, and this is amazing production. I will grow this variety probably every year. I really, really like it. The fruit on these is meaty, but it's also works as a slicer, so it's not a paste tomato, but they taste wonderful. And I'm really happy with this variety. So this is definitely on the permanent rotation. So what I do on these big tomatoes, I don't do it on cherry tomatoes, but I do it on my large tomatoes, is I actually pick them before they're fully ripe. When I start to see them blush, that's when I pick them, and I take them in the house, and I have these kind of flat boxes and I put them in these flat boxes and I cover them, because what makes them ripen is actually a gas. And I just find that I have to do that, even the high tunnel tomatoes, because it is really disheartening to have this big, giant, gorgeous tomato that you've been watching and waiting for, and just the day that it is at its perfection of ripeness, and you go to pick it and you find it's got a hole in it. And so that's how I do it with tomatoes. So this is a variety called mortgage lifter, and these are supposed to be really big, giant tomatoes. I mean, think about it. Mortgage lifter. It's supposed to be so prolific and so big that it will take your mortgage. It'll help you take care of your mortgage. So far, yeah, not so much. I mean, it's got a lot of tomatoes on it, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a slow variety. It's huge, because I haven't trimmed it back, because it is a determinate, and so I'm just letting it grow. I mean, it's tied up, but it's loaded with tomatoes, but they're not very big, so we shall see. And then my other disappointment, these are both new varieties for me. My other one's my Paul Robeson, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things about this variety. This is an old heirloom variety, and I gotta tell you, so far, not impressed. I have no fruit on it. Now, it might be much more sensitive to heat than some of these other ones, but yeah, not sure that I'll grow these again. So these are plants that I started from cuttings from the plants in the other bed. And I've got 2 Roadsters here, and I just took cuttings of my Roadster plants, just suckers that I pulled off. And this thing is loaded with fruit. So I'm gonna have a whole bunch more tomatoes from this. And I've been doing some pruning. I need to do some additional pruning. You can basically prune off any leaves that are below the fruit, and that just helps with airflow. This one is not doing as well, but I don't know why. Anyway, so this is a nice way to start additional tomato plants if you don't want to start from seed. The only downside to this is if your original plant has any kind of fungal disease or something like that, it will be transferred. So it will have that disease. So this plant looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. Well, here is my paprika, and you can see that somebody got it through the night. And this is the problem with these tomato hornworms or hookworms, is they also like peppers. And there is the culprit. And oh my God, they grow so fast. So I'm gonna put a glove on. I pick the little ones with my hand, but the great big ones I don't, because they poop all over you. So I'm gonna put a glove on him and pick this guy, and I'm gonna take it out to the chicks. So this is what he looks like. You can see on my hand, he's big. So I gotta go through here real thoroughly and make sure that make sure there's nobody else on here, because you can see what they can do. And that's just overnight, because I picked bugs last night. But the good news is, he is quite the delectable snack. And somebody gets them, and they run around, and they chase each other, and they're pretty happy with that. So this is about the stage that I pick my tomatoes, and you can see that it's definitely ripening. It's definitely getting orange there, and I just go ahead and take them, and maybe there. And I will take that in the house, and I will put it in a box with all the rest of my tomatoes that are ripening, and it'll be ripe in a couple days. Well, I think that's about it for today. Thank you for coming along with me. Here's my cucumbers experiment. I'm really liking it still. It's getting really full. They're very healthy, and they're producing. So kind of happy with that. I'll probably do that more often. Hope everyone's wonderful. Have a lovely Independence Day, and I will talk to y'all soon.